Hey folks, okay, so we're going to go over the elements of nonfiction, meaning not fake, so it's real. This is going to be applied to, for the purposes of my classes, it is going to be applied to either Frederick Douglass's speech, What to the Slave is the 4th of July, or it's going to be applied to his narrative, the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave, written by himself. That is the full name, yes. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. There it is. Okay, so right now we're looking at the elements of nonfiction. There are 5 of them. This is going to go really fast. Okay, so typically authors that are writing a piece of nonfiction or an autobiography or a memoir, they are going to follow or at least incorporate these 5 elements. Okay, so the first one is a major idea. So it's essentially the main purpose to it, to inform, entertain, and convince or persuade. Okay, so for the purposes of Frederick Douglass, he is not doing this necessarily to entertain people. These 2 particular readings are very serious. So they are much more to convince / persuade and inform his readers. Although I guess in a sense, some of it could be entertaining, but I think that's a little, I think it's a far stretch. Anyway, okay, so it's aiming to hit all 3 of these through their use of, through their main idea, I'm sorry. It's usually at the beginning of the book or the beginning of whatever it is. So for example, Frederick Douglass's speech, he says immediately, you know, like, I am not here to celebrate the 4th of July. It's why I refuse to come on the 4th. I am here on the 5th because Independence Day does not mean the same to me as it does to you. So he is very forward about why he's there. The same with the autobiography that he wrote, or at least the narrative that he wrote. There is a preface and there is a letter to confirm that he wrote it himself, because we have to remember that because Frederick Douglass is Black, he was not a reliable author at the time, just because of his color. So with that, he says at the beginning that though he doesn't remember much, he's going to detail as much as he can to the best of his ability about his life and about his early childhood. Okay, the second thing is visual aids or a reader's aid. Okay, so this might be a table, a graph, an illustration, photographs, or a glossary. Now, in these particular ratings, neither of those exist. However, you have to remember the time period for this. Okay, so it was 1800s. It wasn't really a thing, and especially was not accessible to Douglass. Okay, so yes, he could have made a graph, but I don't know what he would have made a graph of, or a table, or an illustration. I'm sure. I do know that there is a illustrated book of the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, and I know that because it's on my bookshelf. However, most of the, well, not most, those 2 particular writings, these really do not exist. That does not mean that it doesn't follow the elements of nonfiction. It just means that for these 2 particular works, it does not include those. But they are meant solely to aid the reader in a better understanding of what they are trying to tell you, because remember that it is informative. Okay, so most nonfiction pieces, think of like a lab report. You're going to include some type of table or graph or something to help the reader understand how you collected data and how it presented to you. The next is going to be a cause, effect, and comparisons. Okay, supporting details. This is going to be the biggest element in terms of Douglass's 2 writings or speech and writing. Okay, so he is going to tell you what happened and what is the effect of that. Okay, so he is telling you why or what the 4th of July is to the majority of Americans, or at least the white Americans. And the effect is that Black Americans are not going to celebrate that because it does not mean the same. And he is going to compare the two as to how they do not compare at all. He is going to tell in his narrative how there was a status almost within the slaves on the plantations that he worked on. Sorry, I think I hear my kid. I can't tell. Okay, so he's going to compare himself as a child to a white child, Thomas, and how they're both learning how to read and write, and then suddenly one day he's no longer allowed to learn those things. Okay, next it's going to be elements that are borrowed from fiction. So a narrative, it creates reliability. That is the entirety of the speech and the entirety of his narrative. He is presenting this information in a way that it ties to personal experience, and clearly because it's written from Douglas's perspective, it is all personal experience. And because of what he says at the beginning of both his speech and the narrative, along with the letter and preface to his narrative, it creates the sense of reliability for him. And then lastly, he's not borrowing anything. He's not exaggerating anything. He is relying solely on fact. He does not, oh my gosh, what's that word? Exaggerate, sorry. He doesn't exaggerate anything. He doesn't lie. He sticks to the truth. He sticks to what he knows and what he personally experienced. He doesn't speculate on anyone else's experiences. Okay, so when he's talking about something specific, he talks only about what he knows. These are going to be those areas of, sorry, his narrative. Oh my gosh, I can't, my words are just not there. So again, the elements of nonfiction are very short, they're very concise, and there's really not much wiggle room with them because you don't necessarily have characters, you don't have settings, you don't have some of the same things that are in the elements of drama or the elements of fiction. So there's really not much to it, except for that you have to know that it's all based on fact, and everything that goes into the elements of fiction are about reliability and credibility of the author or speaker. So when you go to apply this to your reader's response, think about how all of these things add up to, how do they add up to create that sense of reliability in the author or in the narrator? Okay, what cause and effects and comparisons are there throughout either the speech or the narrative itself? Would a aid help or not? How so? What could there be in it? What is the major idea that is trying to be conveyed throughout? Okay, so those are the things that you will apply to your reader's response when you go to write about either the speech or the narrative itself. Okay, hope that makes sense, and I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.